Hello everyone, my name is Wolfclock, and this is my Vertigo mod for the Half-Life 2 beta. This mod has been in on and off development and progress since about 2018, and I'm very happy to be able to share it with you all today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get a new game started, and I'll talk about some of the things I did while developing the game as we go through the levels.
Gordon! I'm hurt! Can't move! Go on without me. Find my father. There's an emergency bunker near the inner gate. Keep in command there. Tell him that
We're taking this one back! You two, search and secure the upper decks! Work your way down to the floors below! Look for a way down. Careful where you step. Just waiting for the smoke to clear. Okay, let's go. Did you see that girl before they took her? Looked like she was talking to someone down below. What are the odds two people survived this crash? She didn't fly it in alone, you know. No, but I don't have any trouble believing the others are in little burnt pieces right now. Don't get cocky. Little burnt pieces have a way of biting you in the ass. Shh. You hear that? Something down there? Well, I don't see anything, but let's not take any chances. Okay, found some stairs. Let's head down.
So, let's start off with this opening section here, and I'm not going to open the doors until it's just unlocked, because that will trigger the rest of the dialogue. For a couple of the Vertigo maps, namely Vert-01 and Vert-02, I sort of mix-matched between different files, instead of just going straight for the first one, or the last one in the series that we had. The reason, of course, being I want to get a good fluid feel between the different levels. This one, in particular, I chose a version that had a hole in the center, which would be an excellent starting point for the player, and also obscure vision from the upstairs areas, so that I could have that whole out-of-shot cutscene take place. That cutscene, by the way, was an interesting thing that I did. So, the way that Half-Life 2 works with its choreographed scenes is it uses particular NPCs with particular names in order to have everything go as intended. So, for the beginning, when you hear that commander yelling to the Combine soldiers, actually, instead of having a singular NPC for that, instead it used a rat. So that's something that you can take a look for. Anyway, this room was chosen in particular over a couple of the other options. One, because it had a unique texture which wasn't used elsewhere. I liked how it looked. And other than that, because I felt like this would probably be the best way to get this cutscene working. So without further ado, let's take a look.
Nothing, and more nothing. I don't know what they expect to find up here. Down lower, maybe. I heard reports this place was being used as a supply cache for the underground, but no citizen is going to waste time climbing all the way up here. I don't care how disgruntled they are. Nothing ever came of those reports. But look at it this way. That was a rebel chopper just crashed up there. Yeah, and? You ever had your hands on any of the weapons these guys are supposedly armed with? Suddenly it's not just rocks and bottles and Molotovs. They've tapped into some old ammo dump or something. They're turning up with contraband we'll never get permission to carry. You think we might find some of that stuff up here? We'd have to turn it in, though. I won't tell if you won't. You want to go up against these mobs with a stun stick and a truncheon, be my guest. If I find a rocket launcher, I'm keeping it, with or without the console's blessing. What we really need is some of the Combine tech. Forget about that.
These guys really do like to drone on.
Got some kind of messed up nervous system. No thanks. Here, let's check out this room. Stuff could have fallen down from the upper deck. This wall's sealed off pretty good by rubble. Let me blow it open. Go for it. Setting the charge. Okay, get back. This is gonna be a big one. I'm clear. Here goes. That never gets old. Someone's in there! Shit!
So, There is a pretty common misconception that the people saying those lines are supposed to be Metro cops and not soldiers. But they actually were soldiers, as evidenced by the file names for, or the NBC names, rather, for these guys. So, while we're up here and don't have any distractions, I want to move around and showcase some stuff. Nothing up there. Couldn't quite remember if I hid something up there or not. This room is a good starting place. So, all throughout Vertigo, there are these brush pieces of furniture. This is one of Vertigo's core things that's seen everywhere. And initially, all of these things were just in a pure wood temporary texture setup. But clearly I had taken some time to retexture everything that they had there on things. This I assessed was supposed to be a phone, so I gave it something from Half-Life 1. Later on we'll encounter a bookshelf which has some books with various textures. And over here we've got some more things. Very nice. But, yeah, that was something I had to do manually. There are also some textures I should talk about here. So, this texture right here I had to recreate, and this texture on the ceiling I had to recreate. The ceiling one is sort of just guesswork. The wall here is based off of one half of these wall textures. There's a C version that nobody had done, and I had decided to put my work to good use in recreating it. Here we have who was probably the sergeant or the commander pop out. This section was kind of interesting. There are unused triggers. I believe right here there's an unused trigger that lights this flare and then calls for... Look at that, that's a funny stance he's in. It calls for a soldier NPC who didn't exist on the map to appear. So I essentially just add this guy back in, gave him a little walk cycle where he strolls in over here and notices you. I guess with that I ought to explain why I started making Vertigo in general, because I never really explained that part. Look at that, beautiful. Beautiful. So, Vertigo as a project came up for me back in 2018. And the reason behind it was because I had been looking at some of the unused environment maps that were left over in the Half-Life 2 leak. And I had realized that, okay, the atrium, there is a door that we don't have. Hey, we should remake this. And I attempted to remake it, was terrible, and then somebody else attempted to remake, which was awesome, and that's the one that we have over here. But this got me interested because there were also environment maps that showcased some portions of the exterior of the building. And I wanted to be the man who would do that, be the man to recreate these old textures. And I'm not the only one, and obviously my textures aren't perfect, but I was the first to remake them, and for that reason I decided to put it upon myself to make Vertigo as a full playable mod, since we had all of these maps and stuff. As things went along, obviously stuff got in the way. I started work on this while I was in high school, now I'm in college. You know how it goes, as the story goes on. But, yeah, it's not to say that I'm displeased with my work or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm very happy with where this project managed to go. Here we can see a nice view of the city, which you know from that concept art that I used for the start. This section here was kind of interesting. It was a thing that I worked on, well, I believe 2020, when I had finally started piecing things together and went from just having levels that went from one to another to balancing and optimizing. The lights obviously are sort of a way to help show the player where they're supposed to go. I did have a number of early playtesters that got really confused at this point, so I wanted to drive home that I'm not changing the general route, but I want players to be able to figure out how to get from point A to point B. So that was something that I had done. A little bit more of the interior here. This is another texture that I had remade, actually based off of a screenshot, an environment map, and also the height map for this pipe texture. Showcased these extra lines and stuff all throughout it. So that's how this remake came to play. This model was created by Epic Player. You know him from a number of different Half-Life Beta model recreations, I'm sure. Especially including the 2000 Combine Soldier, which was showcased earlier. So this level transition is a hassle, and the reason why it was a hassle was because Vert 01 and the version of Vert 02 that I used are relatively different from one another, so I had to find a way to get the transition to line up as well as I could. It's still noticeable that it's sort of a weird transition, but not too noticeable. Like the color change there. It's whatever. Vert 02 was not too difficult of a thing for me. Most of the level geometry was just intact as it was. So really all I had to do was add in some pickup and give reasons for why some areas exist. You know, that sort of stuff. Did need to do some texture changes here and there as well. You'll notice that there's this, like, section here in the middle of the top of this level, and this is actually supposed to be where the player comes from in the first level, that little drop-down area that they're stuck in. So, come down here. I suppose it's another good way to showcase some of the special work done for this mod. Again, we have these old doors which were completely recreated, I believe, by H-Grunt, although I might be incorrect there. Another thing here was something that was actually found about the textures thanks to the environment map, was the shape of how they looked. So these textures are sort of striped. We have this section here, which has the all the different Vertigo looking stuff, and then in this blank space, or where there would be, I believe for me I used concrete, white concrete for that section. We'll get a better chance to look at that a little bit later. There's also some other textures that have been hodgepodged around from various different places. Probably even visible on this map, I'm sure. You can find a concrete texture that was replaced with its dev version at some point or another. But what's more important is that we get a move along. So there was a section that I crossed up on that last floor, over there. That bridge was something that I had added in. It seems that this version of Vert 02 didn't actually have a way to get from this floor down to the next without just like jumping down and praying for the best. That may have just been how it was supposed to be, because I believe the later versions of Vert 02 have it like that as well, but that's fine. Well, we have this lovely shot of the outside area. I will take this time to showcase something that's very nice. This skybox texture right here. Now, this was recreated by, I believe, Sergeant Stacker and A-Shift. I was given permission to use it. Very nice, based off of a number of different things. And the lighting is correct as well. I chose for all of Vertigo to, instead of using the various different light environments that are found within different maps, I decided to go for this green, blue, red one, which obviously was supposed to go with this version of the sky. And this was found, I believe, on Vert... it must have been the version of Vert 03 where I picked it up from. But I chose that one for the entirety of the series of maps for, obviously. Let's see here. Here we can get a good, better shot at viewing this texture here. Again, different interpretations from different people. The other predominant recreator of textures for Vertigo, I'm blanking on who it was, but they had opted instead to use, I think it was Vents for those set of pieces. It doesn't matter. It's hard to interpret from the very few pixels we had anyway, but we each make do, and I think that's good enough. We have another one of these dark, empty sections that has no reason to exist in the map itself. Personally, I just put this in as some lights, and down this hallway I added some goodies and a zombie to deal with. What experts in the industry call environmental storytelling, with this dead soldier right here. Move along to Vert 03. So this is Vert 03, and it's an interesting thing. So first off, I want to showcase these textures here. Excellent recreations by, I believe it was Chloe who did them. Very excellent recreations based off of very minimal stuff that we had, and they get used a lot in this map in particular. So Vert 03, I recall, in terms of attempting to fix it, I spent, probably no less than 2 or 3 months on it. It took a very long time for me to get this map working, because it was a very advanced map with details and knickknacks and stuff. But I'm very happy with where we're going. So this room is an excellent example of just how far we've gone in the development for leak-related stuff, because this map in particular showcases all of these different marble wall, ceiling, floor textures, all these different textures which in regular base and on HO2, like the base leak, are all crossed out with these nasty pink crosses. It's really just a testament to all the work that's been put into this kind of stuff. And unrelated to that, I wanted to explain my madness here with this console statue. Essentially, I just thought, you know, everybody puts a horse here. Why not signify the era by using the console statue instead, since it's never really used? And that's why that's there. This whole outside area I tinkered a lot with for gameplay, but in the end I decided to just have it exist sort of as a set piece for players to explore if they really want to. Nothing mandatory, just a little something to look around at, see the city, all that stuff. It also gives us a chance to look at the building, too. And I believe... Okay, over here. Yeah, some of these spots here were where I had first begun to recreate these textures. And the way I went about doing some of these was by taking where I knew the texture was supposed to be, using a basic multicolored UV sheet, and figuring out what would be what and where would be where. I figured out that this texture here would have had a brim at the top, so that's how that happened. Let's move along, because I do want to showcase some of the changes that I made to make gameplay more tangibly fun. I did a number of playtests, and I never found really an issue with players figuring out how to get upstairs. However, I did have some issues with players figuring out how to get upstairs, so my solution, of course, and we'll see this in just a moment, large green bright exit sign. I use the signs. And even then followed up by brightly lit lambda. I mean, you know what they say. If it works, it works. Here we have this shaft, which took me a lot of wear and hassle to figure out how to get functional without having the player get stuck on it. In the end, I believe I just used an invisible brush that the player stands on, or it's supposed to creak and stuff, and then when it falls open, that brush disappears. So now we get to the fun part. I'm gonna crouch under this brush that had to be raised because the crouching level used to be much lower in the beta, like early beta, than it is here. And I'm going to proceed to showcase, I guess I could call it hell? Definitely hell, yeah. At least in terms of development, anyway. So, welcome to these puzzles. And the way that the puzzles are showcased at the very start was pretty good. I mean, very obvious starting point here. You turn the thing, and it turns the smoke on and off. And we'll get to more advanced puzzles later. But, attempting to fix this ancient level stuff, oh, it was difficult. I mean, this stuff was being developed probably mostly before I was born. And, that's a testament to age, and I'm 20 years old now, so kind of crazy. This section here, I did have a few problems with playtesters just walking in, looking at the smoke that they know is going to damage them, seeing it have this big ring of area, and then just proceeding to dash straight through them and taking like 30 damage. I'm going to instead use the brightly lit computer monitor and go around it. Obviously, I'm being facetious. Playtesters can't be objectively wrong most of the time, so... I think I was freaking out. While we're here, actually, let me showcase some more things that existed just with this texture and this texture exclusively before I did stuff with them. Everything that you see here, here, all this stuff was originally just wood. Even the cuticle pieces here. So, all this stuff I had manually textured, and I hope I did a good job. I've heard people say that they want to read the cremated book, which I get some laughs out of every time. Let's move on to this upper section. So here we have a wall texture I've created originally for a completely different mod. My mod with Clock's Fun Box. But it works because everywhere in these vent areas it calls for a variant of a plaster wall texture that didn't exist. So I deduced that the variant was likely the same as the texture that we had, except minus the white bits. That's how I conducted this. Here we have the quote-unquote puzzle aspect of this section. We're just supposed to turn these on and burn the crabs. But not much of a puzzle, if you ask me. In either case, I digress. It's quite satisfying. And this spot right here is especially satisfying. This is where we were earlier, except now we have crabs everywhere. And it's on, you can burn them all away. Literally, somebody at Valve just decided, you know what? What if we spawn a bunch of head crabs just so they could get burnt? And I love them for it, because I would have done the exact same thing. So now we have another Combine introduction here. This is another example of an area that I pretty much had free range for in terms of development. And let me heal up Combine. What I mean when I say that. So, the original version of this room is just a big empty box with like nothing in it. That section where the Combine soldier blows open the door, that is from it. But, I believe none of the Combine soldiers that are placed in this room following that are actually original. So what I needed to do for the section essentially was light up the room and then sort of just make it into a miscellaneous storage area. Gives the player a good, you know, little gunfight, little shootout, I feel. And so that's the point of this room. We're now coming down to the lobby areas, which were, well, there was something. Let's start off by taking some stability. So the lobbies were an interesting thing. And I use the word interesting for lack of any better words to use. There are 3 lobbies. There's this one and there's 2 below, which all were very dark, dimly lit, and all looked exactly the same. And the bottommost, well, not the bottommost one, but the transition past that wasn't even connected, so I had to reconnect it manually. Gave me an interesting problem to work with, which was that, okay, these are just copy-pastes, and players are getting confused about whether they've been here before, whether they're going in circles and all that stuff. So my solution, and memorize how this looks as I go down. My solution, of course, was to theme and stylize the floor with unique colors and unique textures. I hope that I did a pretty good job with that. Each of them, I give them different chandeliers and like skylighting. The first one used a giant sconce actually, but yeah, in place of a chandelier. Same difference, tomato tomato. Here we have another famous example of playtesters not knowing for sure where they're supposed to be going, so me just shoving a giant bright exit sign there to alleviate some of the problems. This area is mostly untouched by me. It was actually pretty much 100% a Valve thing. And I guess it's like a generator section, a power section inside the building. I couldn't tell you much about that. To the brim of stalkers for no clear reason. There was a couple of problems had here during development. This staircase was something I had to add in myself. It wasn't here from Valve originally, but players wouldn't figure out how to get down here without just tanking fall damage and sometimes dying on the way down, so hence the staircase. Let's switch out to the superior weapon, and here at this one, we have the third. Ow. The third of these areas, and this again uses my custom ceiling texture that I had showcased in Vertigo 1. So this whole area is, again, it was identical up the top floors. I really try and hope that players don't really notice that most of these floors are not only identical, but also don't lead anywhere and don't have a reason to exist. Because Valve never really gave them a reason to exist, so... presented with a unique problem there. And my solution was no solution. It was ignoring the problem. I'm going to move on to Vertigo 4 here. But before we do that, I also want to mention that this entire section here, unlike the previous staircases, this staircase exists in the map, but it was just out of bounds and inaccessible. This entire area back here was just inside some huge blocks, so I had to manually carve out a way for players to get into it, and then add in the level transition here. And now we go from that level, which is hell, to probably the one that I worked like the last on, and also the one that I had a lot of fun with. This is Vertigo 4, and I'm going to showcase a very fun sequence here that everybody seems to love.
In the hole. Shit.
Got another one.
Clear my line of fire.
Hello, Dr. Freeman.
I'm gonna let them do their stuff. This section was
Got one.
an interesting problem for me, because I had this big empty floor with these Combine soldiers, no real way to showcase where we're supposed to go, and really nothing to do. So I thought, you know what would be cool? Environmental storytelling. I believe that's the correct terminology to use in this particular case.
Okay, we might live longer if we work together.
In essence, I thought, you know what? They talk about how this was supposed to be a supply cache for the underground. We know that the uprising has started at this point, and now we're pretty low down on the floors. Why not have some actual interaction with real, like, humans fighting a Combine alongside you? And this would be in here anyway, because lower down in the stuff that is Valve created on this map, we have multiple instances of NPCs, like citizens, showing up. Again, particularly something made by Valve. So I thought, you know what, it would be really cool to just have a sequence where you're getting shot at in every direction, and then suddenly, boom, the doors explode, and we get a whole bunch of citizens led by a conscript, and they just take them down. They come in like a squad of badasses. And I thought that was the greatest thing, and it seems that a lot of my playtesters liked it as well. We'll also mention the middle texture here. I don't know if there's line in it, but this texture right here was also a recreation because we had versions B and C, but we didn't have version A, which was just a non-brimmed version. Let's see. Multipath here. I am going to choose to go this way to showcase some other stuff that I did here. So, Vertigo 4, the only version we had of this map was version 001, which meant that we essentially, well, I essentially had nothing to work with. It was a blockout with very basic and minimal architecture. which of course gave me the ability to make it anything I wanted, which made me very happy when I came to that realization. And case in point, a lot of what we'll be seeing here is all these different areas that are customized gameplay and to have reasons for different things, and to show off different stuff for the players. For starters, this floor, I decided, you know what, let's make it red. Let's make it dark. Let's have it where you can just see the glowing eyes in the dark, and you gotta find that. I think the effect is really nice. I really enjoy it. I mean, I especially enjoy it to see how these elite soldiers would have worked back in the day with their functioning camouflage these days. It's very nice. But, digressing, let's keep going. And I decided that since this is so low down in the tower, I thought, what would the utility value of this place be? Like, why would it exist? And I said to myself, you know what? Commerce. And, like, people coming in and doing stuff day to day. It's not storage. It's not, like, an office with paperwork and stuff. This is where people go to party. So here we have the ball. Which is another case of original geometry with a lot of... I imagine that this would have been some sort of high-end kind of a place to go. Fancy game. So I really tried to make it look like that, and I stylized it accordingly. With these nice tables I made, some wall textures, and sort of plopped them around. I really don't have an excuse to come out here other than if you just want to. But I think that's fine. And I realized at this point too, you know, we're funneling the player into one singular entrance, but this room has this, so why not put in more of these unusable elevators, which is exactly what I do on these doors and stuff. This section is another example of an area that was basically untextured in its original version, but you could tell what it was supposed to be. That, of course, being the kitchen. So, I think I nailed the kitchen aesthetic pretty well. Got the sterile whites with bricks and stuff. I couldn't tell you what everything in this building is used for. I have an apartment complex lower down. Couldn't tell you what this hallway is supposed to be, but it's definitely something. And it's a different color, you know. That's the important thing. You have it be a different color. This could be more storage. This could be low-end apartments. Who knows? This area is apartments, and is also a showcase of... Oh dear, you hear him. Frightening. Very frightening. Right then, so... Here we're coming up on an NPC which is actually from the original map. There's just a citizen that's here in front of this big shaft. So I added some dialogue for him.
You're that Freeman guy, right? Listen, one of your conscript buddies told me to let you know Vance is waiting for you at the city gate. The stairs went out as I was climbing them, and the elevator over there is no good. It's not working either. This shaft here is a long way down, but if you can make it, there's this working elevator past the arcade downstairs, so you can't miss it. That should get you outside of the building.
A little bit of exposition here. Vance is looking for me. He's at the city gate, you know, Vance HQ, all that stuff. Let's talk about this shaft. This is an audio file that's original specifically for Vertigo, and specifically for this shaft. The nomenclature implies such a thing anyway. It's, I believe it even says Vert in the name, either Vert or Skyscraper, and it's specifically for a shaft, so I put in here for that purpose. I figured as I was making this, I was like, you know what? This is a very, very big elevator shaft. What would be in here? And I thought, you know what? We'll make like a big, high-end specialty lift. And that is what I did. Never mind the lack of any real utility for having this here, but sometimes things are just in. You know, I'm not an architect, but I guess that's just how architecture goes from time to time. Here we've got this lower area, which I believe I made into more commerce. We have the Game Over Arcade. This is the arcade that was mentioned. There's an Easter egg here, and as a matter of fact, there have been a lot of Easter eggs I've intentionally not showcased, because I want players to get the chance to find them themselves. There's, let me think in total. 4 or 5 different Easter eggs in Vertigo, and I'll let you guys figure out what those are and where they are. This area was a hassle. I needed something to do for this big empty area, so I said, you know what, let's just throw some soldiers in. Have the soldiers get here, they went in through dropship. And then I had to figure out how to balance that. There was an autosave that was back here along with some goodies. I had to figure out how to design this area. I say, you know what, just give it some doors. And so I gave it some doors. And this door's open because this section was open in the original map. And here we have what is probably my favorite set piece I've made. I call this room the cremator office. It's like a really nice looking office. We have an alternate version of the brush telephone that I showcased earlier. This is one that I found in Vertigo 3. I don't know if that's how crappy. Textured that up. Looks real nice. Love this whole room in general. It's like a little peek into how things were before the disrepair. And then, obviously, there's a giant cremator poster that has no explanation, but I thought it would be pretty. And they even expanded on that a little bit following that area. The other issue came up of how do players know to get out to this ledge? And, of course, when players don't know where to go, step 1, you put a light on it. Step 2, you put some blood on it. And just as easy as that, players now know where to go. If you listen really closely while you're out, like, on the sides of this level, you can hear the sound of like, gunshots and firing and stuff off in the streets. Yeah, over there, for example. I tried to keep it subtle because we're still pretty high. As you can see here, we're not quite at the bottom of the tower yet. Here we have the Game Over Arcade. Something I just thought would be nice to have added in here. A little set piece. I based this off of something that A-Shift gave me. A cancelled rendition of Vertigo for A-Shift and Steve Auxiliary's Dark Interval mod. She was kind enough to give me something for inspiration. I took that to make this. Really like how this room looks and how it's designed. And here we have something else.
We hope you enjoyed your trip to Vertigo Tower. See you again soon.
See you again soon. I thought that would be pleasant, so I'll pop it in there just for little goodbye message as we're leaving the Vertigo Tower. And of course, next up, we have Skywalk. So let's give this a second here. There we go. And so for those who aren't too beta savvy, let me explain. Vertigo to Skywalk is definitely confirmed, this entire section made by Valve. Skywalk then to Rooftops, Rooftops to Sniper, and then Sniper to Vance HQ, but I didn't put Vance HQ into the mod. So here we have all these different military patrols out here. We have a tank that's very slowly but surely turning to face us. Took a lot. A lot of this stuff is just done straight from Valve. It's not strictly made by Valve, and it's made by members of the Project Beta map fixes. Here we have everyone's favorite, incredibly annoying enemy. That got very excited, specifically on Skywalk, showcase because we get so many. A very fun, you know, not really dangerous, but still very annoying. Do this and figure out how to get back down to me. That's enough out of you. There's something I love about these maps, and especially it's something that you can hear on and off as we're walking by, going from point A to point B. You can hear like these unexplained noises, just like rumbles of like machinery or like alien tech. It's impossible to really fathom or understand what it is we're hearing. But these noises that that is an excellent example. What the hell is that? Random rumbles that are terrifying to hear. I never actually remember to mention, but ugh. But these guys are using their earlier version of the model, taken, of course, from the 2016-2017 roots. I believe that model was probably also done by This room is why I consider to just use the standard Half-Life 3 because they're so incredibly annoying. Terrible little no-good robot creatures. Ugh, sick. Let's go. Here we have some soldiers without any weapons, standing, attempting to slaughter the citizen who also has no weapons. All in vain, of course. There are some other interesting points to make about this level. There was a section here that I could have used. The version 1 of Skywalk includes this big open ceilinged, like dome ceiling. Just these hallways. I had considered spending some time replacing the entire header transition here that I had made with that giant room that had existed in the first version of this map. But I decided just not to do it because I have more gameplay to add in, and at this point I'd already done like 3 or 4 waves of playtesting, and I thought, you know what, if I add this in now, I'm gonna start on it, I'm going to get ADHD brain and stop for another God knows how many more months, and it would never get out. The mod would never release. So I elected not to place that giant room into this area. I might still change that at some point. Maybe in an update I'll add it back in, but for the time being, I just want to release the mod. So we're going to leave that be as it is. Anyway, next up, of course, is going to be everyone's favorite set-piece map. Well, second favorite. This is Rooftops. Nice shot, buddy. Nice shot. Tragic. What else is tragic for this part of the map is that Rooftops is an excellent level, and it is also an incredibly buggy one, which never works as wanted or intended. So what we just saw here were two citizens picking up these rocks, attempting to throw them at that window to break it, and that is something that's supposed to happen for whatever reason, and it's something that's been consistently inconsistent on like every playthrough of this map for like myself and every playtester I've done this map on, is that no matter what, something different happens here every time. So what we saw that time was the citizen in the back picked up his rock and threw it. The rock missed, and the citizen in the front never even bothered. So I actually had to make an override here. I said after a couple of seconds, if nothing happens, just blow up the glass and start the cutscene. So just let that happen. This area was somewhat difficult to me. When I say that, I mean that again, playtesters were struggling to figure out where to go, which is expected. I'll pick up some hidden ammo over here that I placed for the curious. It's another big problem of having original geometry and trying to be as accurate as possible to the era and the level and all that stuff, versus making it something that players can understand where to go. So I essentially just idiot-proofed this entire rooftop. If it's not something useful for you, you can't get on it. And to exemplify that, I just did the exact opposite of what I said. But everything over here, if it's not where you're supposed to go, you don't get the option. So, putting up against this wall, climb up here. Here we have another example of something that never likes to work as intended. Oh, it actually works this time. Huh. That didn't work for the past 5 times I tried it. Interesting. Like I said, very broken. But anyway, to fix the issue of players not being able to figure out what to do here, because it's a very windy sort of a path. Essentially, I made it so that you can't jump on top of this, you can't jump over this, you can't outsmart the system. The only way you can go is this way, turn around this way, turn around, crouch under this way. And I put flares everywhere just to help players through that, because I had a number of playtesters who had a lot of trouble trying to figure this part out. Which is fine. It's how playtesting should go. It just gives you data. More completely non-dangerous and defensive stalkers. Some of those guys. I should triple those. There are spawners in this map. Specifically for those city scanners, those wasteland scanners. But honestly, if I wanted to, I probably should have tripled the wasteland scanners, because tripled scanners will shoot lasers instead of those little weak it seems strutting his stuff with those beta animations at that. We have an excellent texture recreation by Bun over here. A lot of people have tried to remake this one. This is the first good one I had my hands on with this, so that's why it's in. Another example of an area where players had a lot of trouble figuring out how to go next. Again, just a couple of flares did wonders for that, really. Because, you know, when in doubt, if the player can't quite figure it out, just give him some flares, and it'll be a-okay. So, here we have a newly added level transition I put in, and this will be leading us onto our final map, which of course is none other than Sniper, usually known colloquially as Sniper 209. Again, another example here of hoping that nobody notices that this hallway should not exist. But, you know, in gameplay you don't really notice these things unless it's pointed out to you.
Back up!
Tragic. Tragic. Beautiful. And again, this was probably never intended for real player gameplay. This was probably an internal demo. Just, you know, devs doing what they wanted to do as a sort of
Cover! I need cover!
piece to help figure
Get
out
back, you
how they
idiot!
want it.
Sniper, you with me? You want some of me? Our APC hit a landmine, and that friggin' sniper showed up and took out our gunner. We're trying to blow open a path to Vance. You could cover Manwich. He'll take care of the rest. Ah, this sucks. I'm going for it. Stay put, Manwich. That's an order. Manwich is down. Hit Manwich.
Rest in peace to Manwich. Dearly beloved. Ow! The gameplay is but I'll do all the different lines and turns and tidy spaces to showcase the sniper stuff.
Cover me.
I think some of this stuff actually did make it into the final game. The pin down with Barney. Include some stuff kind of like this. This guy always runs back. I don't know why he does that. I guess he gets. He I guess it is kind of funny. So here, last some interesting things to showcase. More zombies. These windows, I discovered that the unused model texture was actually the window texture for that these windows use, and this map pretty much proved it by having other things which lined up thematically with it. Very nice. Glad to be able to put that in. We always do love discovery and data texture. And with that, we're going to make it to the end of the mod. Just about an hour of gameplay and showcasing.
Sniper. Pretty sure he's got a bolt-action rifle. Hit him while he's reloading. Nice shot. Sure hope that medic's still alive.
Alas, Peters, I barely knew him. So, I hope you guys thoroughly enjoyed that. I spent a very long time making this Vertigo mod, so I do hope that you guys will like it for what it was. It was 3 years in the making, about, and I'm very happy to be able to say that it is finally within a state that I would call releasable. So, with that being out of the way and done, a link to download Vertigo will be in the description. along with instructions on how to install it. Again, this is specifically for Mega Build and on HL2, not for like basic and on HL2, and not for retail, obviously. If you liked what I've showcased here, feel free to give me a subscribe. It would be much appreciated. If you have any questions, comments, or just anything you want to say, feel free to comment it down below. Get that algorithm juice flowing towards me. Obviously, if you disliked it, dislike it. Like it. Yeah. I am very happy to be able to showcase this to everyone after all these years of development. So, thank you guys very much. And as always, I will see you in the next video, whenever it may be. Goodbye for now.